Hey everyone, it's Josh. I wanted to make another video. Lots of people love the first two I made. It's been about 2 months since my last video, and I try not to make videos unless I have anything to add, and James's content's already so good, so well prepared. My content is just a screen share, so it's a little bit rougher. But I wanted to put one out there because I just see some amazing opportunities in the markets, and I wanted to provide an update to my original video, which was Trade of the Decade. And this video will be called Trade of the Decade Part 2. And really, the two assets that I want to talk about today are just MicroStrategy and Tesla. I own NVIDIA, I own a couple cybersecurity names, but um, if I could just leave you with one thing in this video is that MicroStrategy and Tesla are the two assets that I feel the most optimistic about for the future. Again, none of this video is financial advice. Please trade at your own risk. I just want to provide you with some of my thoughts and kind of what I'm seeing in the charts. So let's go over what my last video was. I'll try to make this video somewhat quick. My last video, my market update, I said two trades of the decade. And this was back when MicroStrategy was $176 and Tesla was $260. And obviously, price has gone up significantly since then. MicroStrategy has doubled. I believe all-time highs was at around $540. And if you look at my Discord post, I think it's pretty interesting. I posted this back in October. I suggested that MicroStrategy could hit $600 per share, and this was back when the stock price was at 196. I don't think many people were talking about a possibility of $600 per share, and now it looks kind of like a lock. I even wrote that, hey, this might be one of my final posts. MicroStrategy is about to break out. I think that we should lean very bullish. And I believe MicroStrategy is the trade of the decade. And you can see MicroStrategy went way past any targets that I could have given. I don't say that to brag, but believe it or not, I see a very similar opportunity with MicroStrategy today where we have revisited back level 7. And I do think we will hit $750 to $850. And I kind of want to show you some reasons why. Again, I can be wrong, but this is where I lean. When we look at the Bitcoin spiral, and again, this is 4 years of time, this suggests that we get bottoms in this quartile. Here's the halving. And when Bitcoin tends to reach new all-time highs in the first quarter of the post-halving year, with the new all-time highs in Q3/Q4 of the post-halving year. And when we look at Bitcoin returns since the cycle bottom, you can see we have tracked the 2016 and the 2020 cycles pretty much just dead on in between. But even though the time we're almost 2/3 done, which is the light blue, we still have about another, it looks like about another 300 days left in this cycle. And it looks like we can actually experience up to 50% of the last additional gains. When we look at Bitcoin's monthly returns, let's look at the post or the previous halving years. 2020, 47%, 2016, 30%. So if we're tracking in between the two previous halving years, perhaps we could, hit another 30% return in December. I shared this on Discord. Look at NAV premium. It looks like we're finding support at around 2.4, which I know it's a weird saying, but it looks like we're finding support at around 2.4. MicroStrategy at 540, the trading activity was through the roof. This can kind of help us time when to maybe sell or rotate when a little bit when it goes lower. But look, the trading activity has completely reset. So we are ready perhaps to go up again. And when we look at MSTR's market cap, we're going to possibly get included at S&P 500 at a rank of 117 or higher, which is extremely high for initial inclusion for the S&P 500. And I just found this model. This is microstrategist.com. They've tried to model out MicroStrategy's estimate price, and they have their models. This is their estimate and their deviation from the estimate. And again, they're not perfect, but I like having a model to say, hey, this is my Bitcoin price target. what could the share price of MicroStrategy possibly go to? And if you look at it here, they're projecting that if Bitcoin hits 120K, which is only about a 20% return from here for Bitcoin, that MicroStrategy could possibly go up 100% to $802 per share. Now, that sounds high, and possibly Bitcoin needs to hit 130, 140K, but this kind of gives a baseline for where MicroStrategy could possibly go. They made a MicroStrategy.com made a blog about, okay, what price could MicroStrategy hit? And I think some of these charts were pretty interesting. They go into how they made their models. You know, if the power law, if the Fourier cycle continues, what could it possibly look like? I thought these were pretty interesting on the halving cycle and the election cycle. Um, but if you just look at Bitcoin, they're suggesting that if history repeats, and again, we know this is not the case because there's diminishing returns with Bitcoin, but if history repeats, this is what it would look like. So I just think it's visually a wake up call for myself to say I need to become possibly even more bullish on Bitcoin. And they're suggesting that MicroStrategy could even hit $30,000 per share, which, you know, I think that there's a lot that goes into that. You know, Bitcoin needs to hit 300,000. There's a lot of things, but you know, that's not my personal price forecast. But what I'm trying to advocate for is right to be bullish on the stock. And I think the way they put it is pretty interesting, where they say, and I love how they phrased it. The data suggests something big is about to go down, perhaps the biggest asymmetric bet of our lifetimes, and it may be over before most people realized what happened. So play around with this model, and I think you're going to be surprised. And I do think a share price of 800 to 1,000 is possible this cycle. Let's move on to Tesla. In my previous video, I made the case that, hey, this is an extremely bullish chart, and that was back at 260. And the reason why I argued for bullishness was we're breaking out of this multi-year downtrend. And this is a technician's dream where we break through the downtrend, retest it, and now price is accelerating to the upside. But now what I want you to see is examples of previous stocks where, hey, we're starting to approach all-time highs. And in fact, I think we could hit all-time highs by Q1 of 2025, possibly earlier. So let's look at a few examples of other stocks that hit previous all-time highs. Look at NVIDIA. Wow. Look at how price accelerates to the upside once previous all-time highs were broken. Look at Costco, right? Look at how price accelerated to the upside. And I made this kind of, you know, triangle here. You know, Tesla is kind of similar, right? Where we have this triangle pattern. And perhaps Tesla ends up looking a lot like Costco. You know, the similarities, this is on the daily, you know, let's make Tesla on the daily. It looks like a very similar structure between Costco and Tesla, where we had this triangle pattern and we're going to start approaching all-time highs and price could accelerate. So perhaps Tesla hits 500 to 700 a share much quicker, much faster than what's previously expected. Here's Broadcom. Look at how quickly price accelerated to the upside. And I love this breakout. We gapped through to the upside, retested, boom, and price accelerates. Here's Meta. Same thing. Get through all-time highs and prices in price discovery. So I write all those things. And I think James's video from the retirement cocktail was interesting because he posed a $5,000 price target for Tesla. And started to, and I think that was conservative because that is not considering the progress they've made with bots, with the cybercab. And I think, you know, a price target of 5,000 to 8,000 is extremely reasonable for 2030, 2031, 2032, which is only 5 to 7 years away. And I believe that's going to happen. Those 5 to 7 years will occur much faster than people realize. And I fear people now are having, I forget what it's called, but it's essentially cost basis bias where we're so used to sub $400 Tesla. We're so used to buying Tesla in the 200s, where we're reluctant to buy in the 338s. But if we're going to $8,000 per share, it's still the time to be buying Tesla before we break out to new all-time highs. And even FundStrat is saying, hey, once we get through 414, 510's coming quickly. And I'm unsure people will be as aggressive buyers at $500. And I think a lot of people will not be able to afford Tesla stock anymore if it goes to three, four, $6,000 per share. And I'm not trying to um, create too much urgency, but I do think time is against the clock in terms of buying Tesla at a relatively cheap valuation because Wall Street still hasn't figured the stock out completely. And we still haven't seen how Cybercab contributes to, earnings per share or how the Optimus bot makes profit, etc. So I say that all to say is if you believe Tesla's going to hit $5,000 per share, could you possibly work backwards and say, what could I do today to capitalize on that move? Because it looks very clear, at least to me, that all-time highs for Tesla is a matter of months away, not years. And my fear is that the moment we get to all-time highs, and perhaps we do something like this, right? That price accelerates the $500 to $600 range faster and quicker than we could have ever imagined. And then we simply just can't accumulate as much Tesla in the $600 range. Again, I can definitely be wrong. There's so many factors, but I continue to see Tesla and MicroStrategy as being the two most attractive assets right now. I don't see anything that comes even close. So I'll make another trade of the decade update probably in the new year, but there's a lot to be excited about. And I think the next catalyst is MicroStrategy getting included into the QQQ and S&P 500 index. I'll talk to you guys soon. Happy Thanksgiving.